you want to save money on your trading card purchases, we have a promo link over at 50cards.shop. Enter the promo code ATNIGHT to get 5% off your order. Hello everyone, welcome to V to Premium Transitions, the show where we tell you how to take a deck in V, turn it into Premium with not too many changes, and as you can see, I have a cool scar on the side of my face there, so we gotta do an edgy clan. It was either DIs or Shadow Paladin. We're doing Shadow Paladin today. I'm Atlas, this is Miles from Nexus Corps. How you
Hello
doing, man?
everybody, good, how about you? I'm the guy who left the scar.
I mean, when I say you should see the other guy, that's him. That's the other guy. So, yeah, Shadow Paladin in V. What was the, variant that you ended up picking for this?
It's Luard, pretty simple. I mean, that's been my favorite Shadow Paladin deck and probably my favorite deck period forever. Already, I mean, I was running for a while, for my premium Shadow deck. I was, kind of just sitting on, G Luard, Drag Fall.
Yeah.
And I was it just felt right. I don't know why, but
well, because there's Drag Heart Luard, the original stride bonus. There's Drag Fall Luard, and then there's this version with Drag Heart Luard V.
Yeah,
version.
V Drag Heart, right. So a lot of people would come up to me and go why aren't you running V Drag Heart? And I was like, I mean, you can, you can make a case for either one. I did kind of think about it. I was like, yeah, actually, I don't know, entirely why I haven't tried this out. So I did actually switch the build around, and, using more V premium stuff is way more fun than, yeah, but then the old G stuff, and, numbers make a difference, and also having gifts are really cool. But the big difference was, having a turn 3, and also without striding, and also what I wanted to mention is it's a very tight fit. I had to actually make some cuts just for consistency's sake. Mm-hmm. If I get around to playtesting this deck more, I'm sure I can try out different ratios. But
let's take a look at the list here for V.
Let's do that. Yeah. Any questions, Atlas, before we go in, or am I good to explain?
So I see you got your typical 4 Drag Heart, 2 Drag Driver Luard.
Yeah, I know some people will occasionally do 3. I actually should have thought about this, but for a V premium deck, it might be safer to do 3 Drag Driver. Mm-hmm. But as you can see, the grade 2 lineup is very small.
I had a question first before we get to the grade 2s. Ildona, which is a new card.
That is actually why I was prefacing with the grade 2. So, as we know, this deck is very grade 1 heavy. Mm-hmm. That's the main focus of the deck, to have a lot of grade 1s. And I wanted to, maintain that, and also, again, trying to work with as little changes as possible here. So that's why you're not going to see, grade 2 Morfessa in the grade 2 lineup. Normally, yeah, I would probably put that in there, but not for this. This is the fun part. This is the challenge. This is how I'm the 5-time Shadow Paladin clan leader. So 9 grade 2s, right?
Yeah.
Now, issue here is I will just skim this real quick, but as you can see here, I do run, for my premium deck, I've got Nemin, which has the dump hood, which gets you the blaster guard. So it's guarantees your grade 2 rides. So in the premium deck, it's safer to run less grade 2s, even though I think I actually run more grade 2s in this one. No, I don't. I run less. No, I don't. I run 10, so 1 more. Anyway, not the point. So Ildana, yes, it's a new card. Let's go into that real quick. That first one, 10 cards, and you run, 16 grade 1s, right? I think I got that. Yeah, so you're bound to hit those 2 grade 1s, and within that, I'm sure you're going to see your grade 2. So I was that's a good call. I'm going to give that a shot. So the Ildana is actually to help out searching out your grade 2s. And then on top of that, there are a few other grade 2 searchers here. So I run Blue Espada Dragon. It's basically just to search out your Morion.
Okay.
Hence why Morion is at a 4 in this deck. I also I love Morion. I remember when V Shadows were kind of starting to after the V revival stuff, the V selection or whatever it was called. I saw a lot of decks that were running only 2 Morion or weren't even running Morion in place of like Morfessa or something, and I'm like, okay, like I'll try this, and I was like, nah, this isn't gonna work. So Morion, so that your blue Espada is gonna work out. But of course, I only run 2 blue Espada because like milling, you wind up milling the 3 cards. So the other one is Knees. So this is when you ride it, check top 7, and search for either a Dragheart Luard or Drag Wizard Leofail and add it to your hand. But you get to shuffle. So like that's also why we have the 4 Leofail. And also Leofail is a good card because it's on call. The idea kind of is to have just a good sort of diverse selection of like searchers. Yeah?
Everything kind of gets everything else.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's sort of situational. It's like, okay, so I only run 2 blue Espada, which means like I'm not always going to be able to like search out that Morion, but like blue Espada is nice because it works on rearguard too. So I can use it throughout the game, even for deck thinning, for grabbing blue Espada for filling up drop, and also towards the end of the game, if your drop zone has 5 or more grade 1s, it gets 10k. So it's an 18k beater plus, the
not
power
bad.
that you'd be getting for Luard. Yeah, or not power, but like excel markers. So force markers. Jesus. So like I'm not running it for. It's not really the point to like desperately search out Morion on like turn 1. So Knees is kind of like the cover for that to try and search out Leofail. I know because it's a ride skill only, you like kind of want to put it to 4, but like Knees isn't that good of a card outside of that. You can Soul Blast 1, and your opponent picks one of their rear guards and retires it. It's like, I'm not a big fan of that one. Compared to like the other grade 1s that I have access to, I don't know.
I think you're just doing it for that first skill rather than that
exactly,
second, which is fine. I mean, like there are lots of clans where like you want to ride it because it's got such a good ride skill, and then like the rear guard skill is okay, but just kind of ancillary. Example, Savage Shooter for Batachi Kaze. That turn 1 ride skill, draw, call something, gauge it, so good.
Yes.
And then, okay, you can rest and put a gauge from drop. Fine, I guess, but that first thing is just so good, worth it. Like
exactly, yeah. So like even if I don't see it, again, that's why we run Blue Espada. That's why we run Ildona. It's like there's still some alternatives to not seeing it. And like after I ride it, that I'm like, all right, I have these 3 Knees that do like nothing. So and the main reason I don't like its skill isn't necessarily because your opponent picks the target for retire. It's that I run Charon, which like is a better card that utilizes a Soul Blast. So it's like if I'm going to be Soul Blasting, I want to be utilizing, I want to be Soul Blasting cards that have better skills. So Knees is mostly just for that ride.
Why the 1 Blaster Dark if there's
it's mainly because like I was looking at the ratio and I was like, oh, I have like kind of 1 more slot. And again, I run the Blaster Dark in my premium deck because it's searchable. So for the transition, it's easy to keep in there. As for like, its on-play skill, it's not super great. But in the event that I can't ride it, I can potentially get that Twin Drive. And I figure that with Ildana, it's kind of helpful because like out of 10 cards, there is kind of, there's like, what is that? Like a 1 in, like almost like a 25, 23 something % chance of seeing the Blaster Dark. So like, I figured, I was like, you know what? I mean, if I'm going to be running like just a 1 of grade 2, I might as well have the one that like is something that only really is practical on Vanguard and like isn't going to help me much,
later.
Like it's like if I'm going to run 1 of something that might be helpful on rearguard, it's just kind of like, why would I run 1 of it? It's just sort of like, it doesn't feel like there's any point to it. That's kind of the gist of it.
So why don't we take a look at what's going on with the premium list?
Yes, why don't we? So here's the premium list. Little bit bigger, obviously.
It's okay. I'll have these deck logs in the description if you want to go look at these. Like,
that's great. Yeah.
So
then people can finally like net deck me after like years of net decking other people.
Yeah, understand his genius.
Yeah. So I think first, if I could just point out like the exact card changes.
Okay.
The main changes of like what got taken out from the premium and what got added into premium would be like here. Luales. Luales is a card that like if you have 5 or more grade 1 rearguards, this unit gets 15k. So it's a 20k card, even more on Excel or Force. It was a big card in like V Luard when it first dropped. I remember that, but I kind of thought like, you know, with like your cards in premium, you have more Fessa. You know, everything kind of gets like 15k. Everything, you don't need the Luales. So like right away, I was like, that's the grade 2 I'm taking. That's the grade 1 I'm going to take out.
Okay.
So Nemen's back because you can actually use her.
Yay.
I don't need to justify 4 copies. Like, I've play tested so much, I'm like 4 feels so pointless. I keep it at 3.
Especially in a clan where the whole thing is calling grade 1s from deck.
Yes, exactly. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be doing enough deck thinning, so like I don't need 4. And that's, you know, that's why I also now have the Dump Hood. So this is like in place of Ildana. So you have 3 cards you are like taking out completely. And then in this, we run the Dump Hood, the Dagda, because, like, I thought about it, I'm like, what if I tried finding a build that would work without Dagda, but, like, do you not like winning?
Too good, man. Dagda's too good.
No, it's the card, right. So, like, absolutely not. This dropped in GB 14, like, the last G set. So GB1, for those of you who don't know, GB1 is based on the number of face-up G units you have on your Vanguard Circle or G Zone, because, so it's Ritual 5, which, like, Ritual 5 is not hard to get. It's so good with Morfessa, because Morfessa, your front row has the 15k and the crit, with a, you know, Battle Door. So, like, you're going to call out, even if you just call out, like, your 6k grade 1, or even, like, your 5k grade 1s, it's like, cool, this is now 20k if it's not on a force marker, and, like, whatever triggers you might see eventually, or anything. And if you restand Dagda, you can do it again. There are a few times where I've had an issue of, like, actually, I'm going to go into that later when I go into the G-Zone. But the changes in this are that I have added the Dump Hood, I've added the Dagda, because how could you not? Nemen's back because of the Dump Hood, and then I actually add the 1 Nightmare Painter. And I love this card. This is from BT5, like the original set. It had no place during the... I guess it did, but like, whatever. When you write it or call it, if you have a Shadow Paladin Vanguard, because that's how skills used to work back then, choose a Shadow Paladin from your hand and add it to Soul. So the main reason for that is because if you are going first, you're not going to be able to do first stride. So you ride your Dragheart, you go into Drag Driver Luard, and then you search its skill is what plays counter +1. Search your deck for up to any number of grade 1s for the number of Luard cards in your soul, +1, and then call them. So you basically guarantee the 1 Nightmare Painter. You call the Nightmare Painter, you add in your... Hopefully you have another Luard in hand, stick it into Soul. So now you have that requirement of the 2 or more grade 3s in Soul. So turn 3, your grade 1s have 2 crit now. So that's like a fun little thing that I saw, and like actually kind of what got me to switch over way back to the V Luard for my premium deck, because it's a bit more difficult to like... There's no reason to run Nightmare Painter if you are running G Luard. So I thought, oh my god, that makes perfect sense. So there's the 1.
With Nemen like now being usable, it has caused like a lot more 5Ks to creep into the game plan.
Although I will say one thing, like something I do want to try eventually with a different like V premium Luard deck is like have my 3 Nemen, because I always do, but use that 4th Nemen spot to run one of the encounter Nemen. Because you can call it out using Nemen.
That's true. You can.
Yeah, you can, right?
Yeah.
And I should have brought up the card. I don't remember exactly what it does, but I remember when I looked at it, I was like, hey, that helps like deck thinning and like searching, so I'm gonna give that a shot.
I think it was like draw 2, put something in Soul. I can't really remember.
That's why, because you can run it in place of your Nightmare Painter.
Right.
So there we go. Yes, thank you. That's what it was, right. Because that way you can kind of do it earlier on in the game, because there have been times where either my Nightmare Painter hits damage, or I like draw into it, and I'm like, oh no, I can't like call it out, which isn't a huge issue, but like, I think it's sometimes best to just get to call out the Nightmare Painter, because then it's like, you're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You know, you're deck thinning and you're pulling off Nightmare Painter skill. Because I believe Nightmare Painter is just when it's placed. Yeah, it doesn't need to be from hand, right?
Just anywhere.
The changes aren't just a difference of 3 cards. Like, there's a bit more changes going on in this deck, but most of it's for like functionality. Like Dagda, you have to do it. Dump Hood is in place of Ildana. So like if you really want to, what I could have done really was like kept the Ildana in there instead of Dump Hood, but like I figured just a one copy of one card wasn't a big deal. Yeah, Ezra's. So like this is a grade 1 PG. It functions way better than Maclear, I think, because it has, you know, its skill is so good. So, GB1, Ritual 3, when it's in drop zone, you choose one of your rear guards, retire it, and then pick another Ezra's in your drop zone, and send it to bottom of deck, bounce this Ezra's back to your hand. So, like, recycling PGs, and also, you know, like, that's fine, you know. So many decks these days like have so many attacks that like having the one PG doesn't quite matter that much. Although I will say like it saved my ass plenty of times, and if you have 4 Ezra's in drop, you know, you can do that. But main reason being is that because this is premium, you want to your first stride like should be Morfessa, you know, which is Ritual 10, and because the zeros can count. So like Ezra's is a card that you can retire 0s and 1s. So sometimes what I will do is like call down an Ezra's. If I have like 2 Ezra's in hand and I really need to get to Ritual 10, is I'll call down an Ezra's, call another Ezra's over that one, and then like call a Belial over the Ezra's. So now I've got the 2 Ezra's in drop, and then you know, proc Ezra's skill. So I send one back to deck, bounce the Ezra's to hand, get the Belial and drop to proc its skill later, and then I get a draw for that Belial. So like, I'm not really, you know, changing the ritual count that much, but I am extending, you know, potentially extending the combos because of what I can draw out with Belial. And the other reason is just like, late game, a huge issue I have ran into, and also why I don't run 4 Dagda, is because sometimes I will not have, like, if you're doing double Dagda and it's late game with this deck, I have rarely had 4 grade 1s to go into, which isn't the biggest issue, because like when you're using Dagda, if you are committed to using it twice, then one of those calls, the first call, is not going to be 2 grade 1s in your front row, it's going to be a column of grade 1s. Yeah. Because you need to count on restanding Dagda, swing with your grade 1 column, use Dagda again. Now you're going to call 2 grade 1s to your left and right. So like, you want at least 3 grade 1s if you in deck in order to pull off double Dagda, and that's also after your twin drive or triple drive. So like, Ezra's sends back grade 1s, being Ezra's, to call out with Dagda. Yeah. So that has helped me plenty of times in the late game, especially because like late game too, you're like just off of guarding with the amount of triggers you've gone through, you are at well over Ritual 10 anyway, so you don't really need to worry about like, you know, decreasing the number of grade 1s from your drop zone. So just all around a really good card to enable like the late game plays. And I kind of figured like switching, you know, your draw PGs from B premium to like your grade 1 PGs wouldn't count too much as like with as little changes as possible, but I guess they are 2 completely different cards, so yeah.
It's very important to the deck strategy, and I think like Ezra's is a uniquely incredibly good PG, and I think that's too good to pass up. Also, it's not super expensive at the time of recording.
It's has like a reprint and like no, it's
You'll
many decks I think still use like draw PGs. I'm pretty sure, or will use like 1 or 2 skill PG, like grade 1 skill PGs, but like. Ezra's has truly stood the test of time. There is not a single premium Shadow Paladin deck I've seen that doesn't run Ezra's, because it has so much practicality. So that's kind of the thing I was trying to keep in mind. Like, there aren't too many differences in like this deck you see here and my actual premium Luard deck, but the reason being is because like to have a fully functioning, you know, like optimized or even semi-optimized premium Luard deck is like, that's what I was saying earlier. It's a very tight deck. Like, you cannot make many changes. You can't really add in many new cards, more so that you can like change some ratios, you know, like drop Morion down to 2, though I personally would never, to put Leofield to 3. I would never, you know, do 4 Dagda if you're like that critical about it. Some people run 2 Abyssal Owl. I think that's stupid. You know, stuff like that. I've tried 3 Blue Espada, and like it always winds up decking me out like late game, because Blue Espada's skill you have to drop those cards.
Yeah.
So late game, when you have like 8 cards left in deck, you're asking to kill yourself.
Belial Owl and Cursed Eye Raven are both
they have to be in there.
Yeah, they're effect triggers that aren't going anywhere. Belial Owl basically turns anytime you blow it up into a draw, and then it recycles itself in the deck. And then Cursed Eye Raven goes in the deck and calls from top for stuff to blow up.
Yeah, you're recycling your stands, and then you are potentially deck thinning. So like late game, it can hurt a little bit. You know, if you have like 5 cards left in deck or something, using it, you know, you might just wind up seeing like other triggers or your grade 1s you want to go through. I guess 5 cards is not realistic. You know, it would be more like 8 or 10 or something. But I've had some pretty close games. But like ultimately, these cards make too much of a difference in the deck's performance to like not run them. And then I run the 3 Gilling because it's
Stride crits.
Strides crits are good. Yeah,
we've talked about this a million times. Like, you guys know why it's there. And
obviously, then, like, if I really, and then Astral Chain is consistent for both of them. But like, again, you know, I figured it wasn't a big deal to like change, you know, my triggers to like effect triggers. It's just that's what most premium decks have.
Yeah, that's usually one of the big things that gets changed, right? Like, usually your grade 3s are around the same. It really depends on the clan, but like triggers and the G zone appearing are the biggest things. Also, for the over trigger, I imagine you're not running the Cater Sanctuary one because you attack with Vanguard last, right?
Yeah, I mean it's mainly it's not really that. You don't actually attack with Vanguard last in this deck, no. Because like generally speaking, when you're on Morfessa or something, you're gonna be going like odds are you're gonna be doing like you know, you have a random like let's say your setup is like Morfessa's your Vanguard, you just strode. You have a Dagda on board. So let's say this is your Dagda turn, okay? You have your Dagda column, you have your Morfessa, your Vanguard column, and then you have like any random column, whatever. You're going to be swinging with that random column first, and then depending on how you want to play it, I think if it's like still early game and you're pretty confident you're not going to see like stand triggers or anything, you don't want to commit to doing the double Dagda. You could go like... I don't know what I'm talking about. Never mind. Sorry. You're gonna be going. I totally got it swapped. I was like, what? No, what am I saying?
It's okay. Magic of editing. It'll be fine.
It has been such a long day for me. So you're gonna be going like random column, Dagda, because you do use the Dagda to not just call out a new column, but also to like deck thin before your triple drive, and then you do Morfessa. So I guess in a sense you are doing like. Your Vanguard is the last attack, but like your Vanguard is the attack. It's the last attack normally, but like your that triple drive is going to be, you know, those triggers you get from that triple drive are going to be going into the cards you called out with Dagda. So I guess like you could make a case, you know, to like run the Keter over trigger. But the other reason kind of is like, if you're also going to be restanding Dagda, why not restand it with 100 million power?
Good point.
Yeah.
That's, yeah. Also, it's the cheapest option. What are you complaining for?
Right, it's true. Yeah, exactly. Like, everyone has Elbaria.
Alright, G-Zone. Let's do it.
Yes, let's go in. So, obviously, the most important card is Morfessa. For those who don't know, its actability is, like, what makes everything happen. So Counterblast 1, flip a G unit face up from G zone, retire 2 of your rear guards, draw 2 cards, and then for the rest of your turn, all of your trigger units in drop zone are regarded as grade 1. So that's already really good because even like your ritual 3s are going to be going off sooner, your ritual 5s are going to be going off sooner, and of course Morfessa's own second skill with ritual 10. All of your front row units are going to be getting plus 15k and 1 crit, and whenever your opponent would call cards from hand to Guardian Circle, they have to call cards 2 at a time. So like, you have pretty big numbers, you know, normally your opponent would PG those, but now they need to drop something additional, and if they don't have PGs, and they also don't have like, you know, 20k shields, then they're going to be dropping a lot. So,
longtime viewers of this series, you know that X-Door skills with multiple attacks just shreds hands.
Yes, absolutely. And that is another reason why, like, I enforce running the stand triggers for this, even when we are doing as little cards as possible, as little changes as possible, because, like, 3 attacks with Battledore, really, really good. 4 to 5, potentially 6 attacks with Battledore, I mean, there's no argument. Like,
yeah. It's pretty wacky. And then, like,
you gotta do that.
Also, one thing to note is the way that's worded, the all triggers become grade 1. That includes Heal Guardians, which are grade 3s, but because it says triggers are grade 1s,
exactly.
your Heal Guardians are grade 1s.
So fun little thing you can even do is, like, use Branwen that turn to search out your grade 3 Heal Guardian, and then, like, if you can somehow get it on board and then retire it, or, like, call over it, then boom, you have another trigger drop.
Or just grab it out of deck and then immediately discard it.
Yeah, exactly. Right, using Branwen's skill, exactly. Yeah. So like, Morfessa is really the main card. I mean, with the way Premium is, you know, you're going to win by, like, your second stride, at least with this deck, I think. Like, I have not had a game where I've won off of the first stride. Like, you need to do a bit more deck thinning for that. So, generally speaking, your strides are all going to be Morfessa. So most of these other G units are, like, kind of situational cards, but I figure I would go over them because, like, it does explain, like, what the situations can be. So, like, this is a really fun one. I call it, like, a style card, Chain Ranker. Not the best, really. Like, it sort of is, like, a harder and also not as great version of Morfessa. But if, like, you know you can win with it, and you could also win with Morfessa, I sometimes like to go into Chain Ranker because it's just, like, funny to have it. So here it is. Once per turn, flip a G unit face up, and then this unit gets all the original abilities of one of your heart cards. So why that matters is because with V Luard, if you have like, Silly Play, but, you know, you could potentially, like, Hard Ride Drag Driver. And then if you use Chain Ranker is now sitting at the power that Drag Driver could have. I believe you can do that, actually. Yeah, continuous. So during your turn, this unit gets 5k for each of your grade 1 rear guards. And if you have 2 or more grade 3 cards in your soul, all of your grade 1 crits originally go to 2. So it's, like, fun, you know, very situational.
Style
not exactly.
Points, right?
That is what I'm calling. That's why it's a style card. Yeah, it's a style finisher.
Yeah.
And then its other skill is GB3. If you have 3 or more grade 1 or less units, just on board.
Triple door.
Not fucking hard.
Turn wide triple door.
Exactly. Yeah. With with units swinging, this card's already going to be big because if you have those 3 grade 1s and you're using Drag Driver's heart skill, then you're at least at what would this be? 15, 28, 43. So 43k Vanguard. Your force markers are wherever. We don't even need to count those. But you're gonna have your 2 grade 1s in your front, or not even. You can have them in the back. But you're gonna have you're gonna have 2 units swinging. If you're using those grade 1s, they do have the base 2 crit, and now your opponent needs to guard with 3 cards. So, like, even if those numbers aren't big for your opponent, just to not take, 2 crit per attack, they need to guard with 3 cards at a time. So, like, if they don't have, if it's kind of like late game and they don't have 9 cards in hand, or any way of G guarding, then, like, they're pretty screwed. I tried to pull this off at Springfest, and, like, I almost got the guy, and he actually had, like, basically what I just said. Like, he had the ideal hand. I was like, wow, of course. The one time I'm able to use it is when he has everything for it. But obviously that is such a situational condition that it's like, why not,
Mm-hmm. You're gonna see, like, you've seen this a couple of times before in this series, where it's the stride that still allows the heart card to do whatever it is it wants to do. You saw it in the Narukami episode, you saw it in the Granblue episode. This is another example of that.
Yeah, those are around, definitely.
Yeah, and you will see it in the third in the Paladin trifecta, where it's a lot more important there than it is here. But I think this,
in here it's more for fun. I have not, like, tried to test games where I have, like, actively tried to use Chain Ranker, so maybe that could be different. I think in the event that you wanted to do that, you might want to like up it to 2 or 3, just depending. So you could take out like your drag driver. What is this card called? It's not drag strider. Thank you.
Yeah.
Add like maybe drag abyss or something. But
I think it's just like
it's there.
Different
it's there.
variants of Shadow Paladin can make more effective use of it. That doesn't make it a bad card at all. It's
and plus like with like 3 Morfessa, Morfessa has to flip a G unit. So if you are in a long game and you intend to like use all 3, you need to have G units that you can flip, but that won't take away from the usage of other G units. So like we got a 1 of, a 1 of, and a 1 of. So if you are in a game where you're like, I will be using 3 Morfessa, obviously you take it turn by turn, but like, there you go, you run 3 Morfessa, so you run 3 1 of G units, so that when you flip them, you're not shutting down your other like 2 ofs, because, I guess I can go into these now, this is a classic G unit, Dark Dragon, Phantom Blaster, Diablo. So it's Counterblast 1, you need to flip a copy of itself, hence my point. And if the number of G units in your face-up G units in your G zone is 2 or more, it gets 10k in a crit, and when it attacks, retire 3 of your rear guards. So like, you can proc your Belials and whatnot. Your opponent must retire 2 of their rear guards, and if they don't, or if they can't, they cannot guard from hand. So like, again, it's a very situational card. It's not really a finisher that you actively want to like go into.
It used to be. It used to be.
Yeah.
It used to be a complete scourge of the game before G-Darts existed.
Exactly. Yeah.
The whole goal of Shadow Paladin was like, all right, get to second stride, kill their board, and then make it so, oh, you can't guard this 10k in a crit, you're dead. Cool. So
yeah. I don't know exactly the state of many decks right now, but I do remember a while ago when like Pale Moon was still doing pretty well, and like Granblue was around a lot. I know Granblue's still like tier 1, but like the last time it was tier 1 or something in G, both those decks had a bit of an issue of like, when they ended their turn, their fields are pretty empty. So like, this was just sort of your counter to those decks. So again, this isn't necessarily like a hard counter to any like prominent or even not prominent decks out right now. It's mostly just for a situation like those decks.
Right.
So when you see what your opponent's board is, you're like, oh, why not? Yeah. Because it's not a costy card. It's pretty easy to go into. So our other 2 of, I'd actually think about this one, but it does make sense to run. So Dragobus Luard. Its act ability is once per turn. You can Soul Blast 1, and you flip a copy of itself face up. Retire 1 of your rear guards. Then you get to search for up to 2 grade 1 cards, call them to separate rear guards, and shuffle. So if you called 2 units with the ritual ability, you get to retire 1 of your opponent's units, and its other one is GB3 Ritual X. All of your front row units get 10k for every 4 grade 1s in your drop zone. So like, the GB3 isn't really that big of a deal. That's kind of like just a weaker Luard. The main point is, I noticed like when you're doing turn 1 stride and like you have just a bricked hand, like there are a few games, enough that I'm like, okay, I want to find it out to this, where you're gonna stride, maybe not, maybe you'll just go into drag driver and not stride at all, but sometimes having the triple drive is nice, or like just there's not really a way to like maximize your turn to the best of its, like, you bricked basically. This unit's stride scale is very helpful because it just helps you build a board. Doesn't require any GB, doesn't require any face-up units in G-Zone. All you do is flip itself, you get 2 grade 1s out.
Doesn't require any counterblast, which is also
that
something
too.
to consider.
Yes, and 1 Soul Blast, you can kind of take out that grade 1 that's in your soul to help for fuel your drop zone for ritual. So just kind of like, it's not the best card, but it definitely has its applications in the event that you're like kind of shut down. So I thought, you know what, 2 of, absolutely.
Yeah.
And like, the retire is nice. If there's a card on your opponent's board that they like are desperate to keep, why not snipe it? So that's why, like, Dragobus and Diablo you really want to keep in the deck. I know some G premium decks, or some premium decks run like they run the Spectral Blaster, but I was looking at it, I'm like, it doesn't have a place in the deck. Like, it's a restanding Vanguard, that's nice, but like, what's the point here?
I always kind of thought Spectral Blaster
where
Diablo was just kind of clunky.
When it came out, I was so happy because I don't know if anyone agrees with me or if anyone was around at that time, but like, round 1 support of G Shadows, it was fine, but it was so boring. So getting that second round with like a G unit that kind of had like, you know, it comboed with the new grade 1 and new grade 2 that got introduced in GBT06. But like, so that was cool. It just had like more diverse effects. The build was a little bit more diverse, but it also was very strict with how you used its skill. So like, still not the most fun it could have been. Funny side story, because I guess we're allowed to have those on here. When GBT06 came out, which is what had Spectral Blaster in the deck, so I built that deck the day it came out, and I was like playtesting it all day. I actually had a cold, and when I get kind of sick, sleeping becomes very difficult for me, and I also just get like, I guess you can call them fever dreams. Like, they're not, you know, me actually being feverish, but like, I dream about very specific things, and I also convince myself, or I guess like my subconscious self, or yeah, like unconscious self convinces me that the things I am dreaming of are like tasks I have to complete in order to fall asleep properly. So sometimes if I'm like stuck on math homework or any school homework or anything like that, or even a video game, and I have like one of those sort of sick dreams, I will not be able to sleep properly, and I will continuously wake up because my brain is telling me, you need to complete this equation, you need to beat this boss, you need to do X, Y, and Z in order to sleep properly. So the night after I built that deck, I literally had like sick dreams that I was not able to properly fall asleep until I had like fully maximized using Spectral Diablo. That I think is so
Spectral Blaster Diablo, I can't exist without mastering.
Yeah,
you.
Exactly. Like, just horrible night. It was a nightmare. But I woke up and I was like, I don't know if this deck is healthy for me. So I thought that was funny.
That was funny.
Yeah.
G guards are all like a lot of these are pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, I was kind of hoping actually to go into like the 2 new additions. And by the way, just Dragstrider is another one of those like kind of style point cards. It's like it gets guard restrict, it gets a crit, it gets a drive check. You know, that's it. You use it if you know you're gonna win, and like you know that regardless of what you stride into, you can win. It's a fun card, but mostly you can use this flip flyer for Morfessa. It's probably like the first card I would flip with Morfessa.
Points if you dabble, you're doing it. All right, extra drive.
Absolutely, yeah. Your 4th check, you like dab into it. So we had these new cards come out, and I really wanted to test them out, and I realized like, so Crow Cruak is also another decent like first stride in the case of bricking. So it is once per turn, you can retire 2 of your rear guards. Your opponent chooses 3 of their rear guards and retires them. It's like, wow, control, that's cool. If they didn't do so, this unit gets the ability at the end of your turn at an attack to counter +1, retire 2 more of your rear guards, so it's a bit cost of it, whatever, it's Shadow Paladin, restand it, and it gets plus 10k. So like, that's also why you don't need Spectral Zoot, because this card is just kind of better, and like, even without the restand, the fact that you retire 2 of your rear guards to eliminate 3 of your opponents is really good. Shadow Paladin have never had that kind of trade-off.
Yeah, it's usually like a 2 for 2 or something, right?
2 for 2, or like even like 3 for 2, or something like that. Like, I don't run Ogma either, because like Ogma is such a situational card, and I was like, there's no point to run it anymore. To anyone who might be asking, it's not in the deck. But I really wanted to try Crow Cruak. I really like it. You don't need to focus on the restand, but like if you do, hey, that's cool. And the other thing too is like, if you're retiring 2 rear guards, most of your rear guards like that you want to retire, that you will probably be able to retire, you either want to drop Zone to Fuel Ritual or like have abilities that proc when you retire them, like Belial. So it's really not a big deal. Yeah. So there we go. Let's go over to the G-Guards real quick, and I will start immediately with the new G-Guard that we got along with Crow Cruak, because this card is exactly what I've been wanting.
This thing is so freaking bonkers.
Yes, when it dropped, I screamed. I was like, I wish this came out before Springfest. Yeah. Because this card would have won me a game that I had lost at Springfest during our premium rounds, which, if anyone hasn't seen our vlog for Springfest, we went 0-2. For a premium day. It was like, we're like, oh, this sucks. And I realized like I would have won this one game if I had done this card. It made such a big difference. So anyway, when you would guard with it, pick 5 grade 1s from your drop, put them on the bottom of your deck in any order. This unit gets 5k for each card you've put down there. So potentially 25k, 40k shield. That's awesome. If you put 5 cards, counterblast 1, choose one of your units, and it cannot be hit until end of that battle. So, like, 5 cards for a, like, guaranteed PG. That's really good. But also, the main point isn't even the skills, or even the shield, or the PG effect. Recycling 5 grade 1s from drop zone late game, like, guarantees a double Dagda turn.
For free,
that is,
by the way.
For free, no cost. That is, like, that's huge. That is exactly what this deck needed. I know that Dragcart Luard can use its ability, you know, but, like, if you are striding, you're not going to have that opportunity. When you stride, there is very little recycling you're going to be going for your deck other than Ezra's. So, like, now that we have Deep Griever, that's just taken care of completely. Like,
yeah. The funniest part of this...
If it's late game, like, sending back 5 grade 1s is not going to ruin your ritual count.
There's a Great Nature G-Guard that's like, alright, you mill a card, and then if it's a normal unit, it gets plus 20k shield, and then if it's a trigger unit, it's a PG. I'm like, even if it wasn't a PG,
yeah,
it'd still be pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, this is that same thing where, like, you can make it PG. I'm like, you're letting me put 5 cards back on bottom of deck and give me 25k shield.
It's just
you
like...
say, okay, cool.
Yeah, I have no complaints. Obviously, like, one of, though, you know, because, like, that is a very, it is very costy, so, like, it only really works in the late game, but, like, that's also when you want it, so...
Yeah, you burn off your ritual, or what's his name? Plot Maker.
Okay,
So,
I was gonna say, I'm like, which ritual are you talking
Sorry,
about?
Plot Maker, where he's like, Ritual 3 gets 10k shield, so you, like, use your 3 of those.
Super good.
Your 3 of those, and then your 4th one is Deep Grieve, and then you just put all that stuff back.
Exactly, yeah. So, like, so Plot Maker has always been, like, the general, just, like, that is what you use, because it's a 25k guard. It's super, super useful. But, like, what you can even do is just, like, you know, this deck does a really good job at building hand, I think, with, like, a proper, you know, ritual turn. Because, like, you're drawing 2 off of Morfessa, you're drawing 1 to, like, you know, 1 to 2, maybe 3 maximum off of your Belials. Like, you're gonna get a lot of cards in hand, and then whatever your triple drive might be. So, like, I haven't exactly had an issue of, like, not being able to guard after my, like, turn 3 or turn 4 stride. So... typically, if you are aiming to win, if you're aiming for that, like... Because, like, the biggest thing was, to win, you really needed to hammer in that, like, double Dagda turn, which meant deck thinning a lot, which was harder to do. And also, even if you were able to get Dagda off, again, you needed those 3 grade 1s and drop just to get the, like, 6 attacks. I think it's 6, right? Because it's the column, Dagda, Vanguard, Dagda...
5 or 6, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever. 5 to 6 attacks. I've been doing math all day. I don't need to do more tonight. But, like, you can just use Deep Griever, like, for the fuck of it. Like, even if you're not... You're like, I can survive this turn off of, like, the Ezra's is in my hand that I've been bouncing. Or, like, off of, you know, the G-Guardian's, like, Plot Maker. And you're like, well, why don't I just go to Deep Griever, recycle, like... It doesn't even need to be 5. Just, like, recycle any number up to 5... just to, like, have more of those grade 1s in deck for Dagda, and then it's like, boom, you're just, like, you know, you played on your opponent's turn, and then, like, you're set up for your winning turn. So, I think just with Deep Griever, Shadows, like, Premium Shadows got even better. I would love to see more support like that.
Definitely. And then, like, your last 2 are just kind of like, alright,
yeah, I mean,
shield and...
Dark Veil's there. It's had its situations. It's when it's placed, you Soul Blast 1, and it gets 5k shield for every 2 grade 1s in drop. So, like, very late game, it can guard for a ton. It has been very helpful. I will say, I stand by Jolito. She has helped me out with Battle Door skills so much, because sometimes you do not have those extra, like, you do not have that count of cards in hand, and you're like, wow. If I could draw, if I had 1 extra card in hand, this would be great. So it's like, it's a G-Guard, so it gets over, like, Battle Door skills. It's, when you guard with it, GB1, you're going to be at GB1 anyway, whatever. Flip a G-Unit face up, flip a G-Guardian face up. Choose 2 of your grade 1 or less rear guards, move them to the Guardian Circle, and if 2 were moved, draw a card. So, like, because, grade 1s have 10k, and you get 2 on there, you are guarding for 45k. So a 58k block. That's pretty big. But getting that draw off, and all you did was discard 1 card, like, you are basically guarding 1 attack to get over a Battledore scale, to guarantee that your next attack, or, like, the final attack, or whatever, you're going to be able to guard and get over the Battledore requirements. So, this is
like a tiny version of Spangled from Great Nature.
There you go.
Where you just kind of throw everything at the wall, draw to make it up, and then that can get you to the next attack.
Yeah, and I mean, again, like, getting your grade 1s off the board and into drop zone, and then recycling them or anything, like, or just having them for the ritual, it helps a lot. Like, it's got multiple situations. And, like, again, with Deep Griever, last thing, like, some people run Brona, which is like, when you guard with it, check the top 5 cards, guard with as many grade 1s that are there, and then I think the rest go to the bottom of your deck or something. Like, I always use that because I was like, well, potentially you can get, you can get a good number of grade 1s in there, but it is such a random, like, it's such an RNG card, and, like, you wouldn't always use it to guard. You would use it because your first turn, you knew you weren't going to be able to, like, get to ritual otherwise, so it is such a gamble. But I thought, like, okay, 1, Dark Veil is a lifesaver at times. Jolito as well. You got to have your plot makers because they're the most practical, and, like, 2 is just too little, I think. You might be able to take it down to 2. But, like, also, if you're taking 1 plot maker out for a Bronok, like, it's kind of pointless. Deep Griever, we've just been over plenty of times why you want to keep it. So, like, there's enough in your main deck that now I think you can pretty safely, not just in your main deck, but, like, your alternatives, like with Crocroc or Dragobus, that, like, your turn 3 or your first stride, if you can't hit the Ritual 10 from Urfessa, it's not the biggest deal anymore. So I just kind of figured, like, you don't need 1 RNG card. You don't need to use up one of your G guards to, like, add a +1, +2 to your ritual count next turn, when you might not even hit it anyway. So, yeah. I just thought, like, of the G Guardians that I have in this deck, Bronok is the one that I definitely want to take out the most, so.
All right, well, Miles, thank you for coming on Vita Premium Transition.
Absolutely.
Being that you're from the daddy.
The beginning.
Yeah, the beginning.
I am the founder. Yeah. I am the Nexus Corps.
So, you guys know what Nexus Corps is. That'll be down there. Leave a like, leave a comment.
Yeah, please subscribe. We also have a Discord. I think Atlas can provide that too.
Yes, I can.
Plenty of Vanguard discussion. We've got a whole premium tab, so if you thought, like, videos like these were fun, you can come there and you can yell at me with your own ideas and send me your own deck lists, and if they're better, I can net deck them and use them in next Springfest, stuff like that.
Yeah, of
course. We talk about Digimon too. There's just plenty of stuff like that. If you're an LA local, we have our locals that we, like, plug, so, you can know where we, like, go and play games and hang out too, stuff like that. So, yeah. Please join. It's super fun.
Yeah, and then patreon.com/Nexus at night if you want to help support me, Matt, and Root Beer. And thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Have a great evening. Thank you.